Hi, Anna.
Hi.
How are you
Oh, what's going
doing?
on? I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good, and so I'm so excited. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. I know I was like earlier today, I'm like, how many times did I have to reschedule this? Because I was like traveling, and then this second time I was traveling again, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and it was like international flights. So I was like, okay, eventually
Oh
we'll
my
be able to.
gosh. Yeah, no, international flights are no joke. I went to Europe for the first time in March, and I wasn't prepared for how long the flights were.
Yeah, it was, and there was no direct flight, so it was like
Ever.
long flight and then a short flight, and I was like, okay, I want to sleep.
Exactly. So I have been a super fan since the After series, like many of your readers. But so I've been stalking your Instagram for so long, and I always see myself through you. Like we like some of the like similar things. One of them being Pilates. So I have to ask you, what is your favorite Pilates move, and which one like is your least?
I honestly love probably plank to pike, but I used to
Yeah.
hate it. Like when I
Yeah.
first started, because I couldn't even plank when I first started doing Pilates. So I hated it, but I love it now. And I love like any core, like the
Me
studios
too.
that I go to, they do like half of the class is core, and I love that.
Yeah.
And then my least favorite is the teaser. I
Yeah.
just,
Those are no joke. Like each time, even if we've been doing it for a while, it still burns
yeah,
just as
every
much.
time I'm like, this is, oh yeah, teasers are not my favorite.
Yeah, but it's so good for you. And I like love the studios that you go to. They're so like aesthetic and chic. We don't really have those in Texas. We have some, but they're not as cute as
Yeah,
you.
I feel like there will be some popping up more and more just because
Yeah.
it's becoming more popular. But LA is like, Pilates has been in LA since before I even knew what Pilates was.
Yeah.
So we have so many like cute studios. And then when I travel, I try to find
Me
like the
too.
cutest ones. It's
Were you
like
able
so
to
fun.
find any internationally?
Malta is very limited
Yeah.
on Pilates, and
Yeah.
there was one place that I found, but you had to be a member of this like gym center thing, and I didn't want to buy like a 6 month membership to a gym, but I did use a ball at the hotel gym and like did a mat Pilates by myself because I was like, you know what, I do enough mat
Dedication.
Pilates that I can try to do it, but I
Yeah.
definitely was like really needed a reform. I came home and did like three the next day when I got home,
Yeah.
and I've been so sore all week. I've been still like going every day, but
It's
that
the
first day back,
best.
I was like, it feels so good to be sore.
I know. It's crazy how you just like end up doing it for so long that when you're taken out of that routine, you're like, I don't feel like myself.
Yeah, it was sort of like, what do I do? Like, even in the mornings, I was
Yeah.
kind of like, so besides like going to get coffee, like, what should I do in the morning? And we were doing night shoots. I was there for film. We were doing night shoots. So, like, I had the whole morning. And I mean, I still had like fun, but I was like,
Yeah.
okay, like, that's weird. I'm not spending like 2 to 3 hours a day to Pilates.
Yeah, definitely. I'm right there with you. So, anyways, I just wanted to chat about that because I've been waiting to ask you about it just like offline. Like, what are your thoughts on it? And I just love it so much. So
I
we
love it.
definitely
It's been
bond over.
like life changing. Honestly, I could talk about it like all day. It's been
Me
so
too.
life changing for me.
Me too. Well, congratulations on this release. I know that it's been a while since you last released a book. So how does it feel now that The Last Sunrise is out in the world?
The first week I was just like I feel
Yeah.
like I just go through a pattern of like when I turn it in, before I turn it in, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be like so good. People are gonna love it. And then I panic and then
Yeah.
release comes out and I'm like, I go from excited to like maybe I should have reread it one more time or whatever. But the feedback has honestly been so good. And I
Yeah.
think I'm also just so used to like because especially with the after series, it's like a love it or absolutely hate it kind of
Yeah.
book. So I'm used to these like really brutal, like mildly unhinged reviews. So I was like even the kind of like lower reviews are still so nice. I'm like, this is wild. I've never had this kind of release experience before.
I'm even shocked to even think that you would have any negative reviews. I feel like this book was definitely handled with so much care from the start to
Thank
the
you.
finish. Like you could definitely tell that you took your time with it and it's emotional. So I'll set the scene. The Last Sunrise. This is available in paperback. You can have it in ebook, and even for my audiobook girlies, you can even experience that. But this is an emotional enemies to lovers. It's perfect for a summer read. It's set in the beautiful Majorca, where 22-year-old Oriah she spends the summer with her mother. She's relocated there and she's lived like a super sheltered life. She's had her whole life been dealing with chronic illness. And then she meets Julian. He's a local and he's mysterious. They end up connecting, falling in love for the first time, and just experiencing new things. And this is I would say it's like a new adult. It's a really like a coming of age story. It's definitely emotional. So if you haven't read this yet, I would recommend having your tissues handy because it's so beautiful. Especially at the end, you just like sobbing tears, but in the best way.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you have shared that this book kind of pulls inspiration from your son and his chronic illness. How has that been? Like, did you expect it to kind of be so emotional? Was that emotionally taxing for you, or was it kind of therapeutic, kind of incorporating that into Rye's story?
When I first decided to do it, I didn't even consider that it would be emotional. I think I'm so
Mhm.
used to like daily life and
Yeah,
doctors and medicine and all the things. Like I was just so in the like cycle. So I was like I didn't even think about it,
yeah,
honestly. And then when I started writing, I was like, well, this is gonna be tricky. And my son's version of the tuberous sclerosis is a lot more severe than Oriah. So
yeah.
he has the autism with it too, which like
Okay.
80% of people have. So he has pretty
Yeah,
severe autism. So she doesn't have that. But I was just like, now, especially because without spoilers, Oriah's mom is a pretty big part of the story. And there
hmm,
was a part where I was like, kind of in her, I was writing from Oriah's point of view, but I was
yeah,
like in her mom's mind. And I'm like, man, this like, because her mom, it's hard without a spoiler, but there's a part that I just
yeah.
really, it really got me because I was like, I don't think I really dealt with my own guilt, even though there's no
Sure.
reason to have guilt, but
Yeah,
it was really hard. But then at the end, I was like, you know what? I have never read a book with tuberous sclerosis in my life.
I have. Yeah,
Yeah, and I feel like as much as I have loved so many, popular like sick lit is the genre, it's like I was really proud, even if people didn't, respond to it well or whatever, I was really proud to just have like a person that was loved, like just like a girl falling in love who happened to have a chronic illness instead of
sure.
like and her entire personality is this and then her ending is not
Hmm.
happy, and I was just like I was really happy to have like her have a happy ending because
Me too.
not every single person that deals with these kind of things has to be like a
Exactly.
tragic ending, especially just for our entertainment. Like it just I
Sure.
was a little sick of that, especially after I became a mom. I was like, okay, every time I read a like teenager like
That
with
becomes
yeah.
her entire persona. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the
Or
only thing I like remember or think about when I think of those stories. So I'm like, I don't want that. I want like a girl who's falling in love and has problems with her mom and her identity and like
yeah.
figure out who she is. And then she also happens to have this thing.
Absolutely. And I feel like there's a lot of, like you said it earlier, not a lot of books these days incorporate this topic. So it
Mhm.
was more educational for me too. I even Googled like what is this? And you incorporated the tubers and you kind of explained what that is versus tumors. And it was very educational as well. And you kind of put yourself into Rye's shoes and how I loved how she didn't want to be defined by her illness, but she wanted to make the most out of her life. And you definitely felt all of that journey in your writing. So I appreciated that a lot.
Right. Thank you. That was
Yeah.
exactly what I was trying to do. And I didn't want to make her like, and it's totally fine and normal and understandable to be pessimistic when you have that. And I'm not telling anyone how to feel in their own
Sure.
life, but it was like refreshing to have like someone who's like trying her best to be optimistic, even though she's terrified of what the
Definitely.
future will be. I really wanted to express that and have her like at least try to enjoy
Yeah.
her life.
Anna, I have to ask, are you from Texas? Because I am. I was born and raised here. So I felt a sense of nostalgia when you started talking about Texas, Buc-ee's, all of that. Where
So
did you get that?
I was technically, I literally was born in Ohio, but I moved to Texas when I was 18.
Okay.
And I lived in Texas for 7, 8 years. So all of my kind of formative years, like I got married really young, even though I'm divorced now, but it's
Yes.
fine. It
Yeah.
was the best choice I've ever made. But I got married at 18 and I moved to Texas, and my ex-husband deployed right away. So like
Oh,
and he deployed 3 times. So like I really feel like I grew up in Texas. Like when people ask
yeah.
where I'm from, it's like I have to remind myself like, wait, I'm technically from Ohio, but I
Yeah.
definitely feel like I'm from Texas more than Ohio. And I feel like all of the
Yeah.
things I kind of learned about life and stuff all happened in Texas.
I was like, Buc-ee's, I know exactly what you're talking about. If you haven't experienced Buc-ee's, highly recommend.
Same. I
What is
miss
your go-to Buc-ee's snack?
I love the beef jerky. Like like
Yeah.
there's this really spicy one. I forget the name of it. It's like basically like spicy beef jerky.
Hmm.
It's so good. And then I also love the hot brisket sandwich.
So
And then
good.
those like bags of like the cheese puffs, but they're like Buc-ee's brand. I mean, honestly,
Yes.
everything's so good,
And
but so good.
delicious. I also really loved your cultural aspect, and I feel like you took your time with this in developing these characters. Like, what was that research like for you?
I really wanted it was a story set in Spain, so it made
Yeah.
so much more sense to make them feel like actual Spanish people. Like
Yes.
I even when I wrote after, even though the race is the same, but the culture is not for Hardin,
Yeah.
now looking back after like traveling and knowing English people, I'm like, Hardin's not really English. Like he is, but he doesn't speak like English
Americanized.
person. He doesn't do anything. Like he doesn't eat any food from like
Yeah.
so I wanted, and again, that was like my first book, but I'm like, I wanted this to feel real, and I didn't want to do just like, I don't know, like, especially with Julian, I didn't want to just have
Yeah.
like this Spanish guy who miraculously speaks perfect English, and
Yes.
then like have no Spanish in the book. She's like one of my favorite characters, the friend.
Amara.
Yes, I'm like, and then I'm like,
She's also one of my favorite characters, by the
I
way.
loved her. I like wanted, I was like, I want to do like a
She needs
spinoff
a
of her.
spin-off.
I like I
Exactly.
loved her, and with her I kind of took like inspiration from a male friend of mine who is from
Yeah.
Germany, and then I just wanted to make sure that I didn't just have like a throwaway like LGBTQ character because that's
Yeah.
also a thing. Like I think because I'm so in tune with everything that is going on in the world and the internet, and like I'm just I try so hard to like do it right instead of
Sure.
just like throwing stuff out there because our books live a lot longer than we do. So
Oh my
I
gosh,
try
100%.
really hard to do it. So with this one, I did do a lot of research, especially with so where they are in Majorca is technically Catalan, and I
Yeah.
know like there's a lot of political stuff too between like Spain and Catalan, and like
Yes.
so I didn't want to go too much into that because I don't want to isolate or alienate anyone when they're reading it, but I definitely wanted to make sure that the Spanish was actual like Catalan Spanish and not just like like
Yeah.
Texas Spanish or Mexico or like you never
Sure.
know. Like sometimes I read stuff and I'm like, wait, that's interesting. That's not the right dialect. So I wanted to just take my time and make sure. Like I remember one day I was like, am I just like ADHD, anxiety, overthinking this, or do I really need to Google? Because I was Googling like the what the street was made of, because
Yes.
I was like, I don't want to have the wrong thing if I'm saying like limestone and limestone isn't
Is
in
it?
Spain, or
Sure.
if there's some like there's so much history, especially in Europe, more so than here because we're
Yeah.
like a baby country. But there's so much history that I was like, I just need to make sure that it's right. And I do have a lot of readers in Europe and in Spain, so I really wanted
That's awesome.
to like make
Do it
sure that they
justice.
could read it and not be like, what the heck is this like American girl doing? Like, why didn't she take the time to
Yeah.
research it? So
Well, I never read blurbs. That's kind of like my thing. Like I look at tropes, never read the blurb. So when I first picked up the book, I was like I felt represented as a Spanish Latina. And like everything from like her characteristics, her mom reminded me of my mom in the best way, mom, if you're watching. But it's just like there's a lot of strength in those characters, and especially with Ry, and you definitely feel it. Even with Julian, he reminded me, I did see a lot of Hardin in him as well. In some parts, kind of like the bad boy,
yeah, me
rebellious
too.
directed.
Honestly, there
Yeah.
were times where I was like, wait, I need to tone this down because he's more emotionally mature than Hardin, but
Yes.
like there were times where I felt the same. And with Oriah and her mom, I also
Yeah.
wanted with her mom, it's like a lot of times, especially immigrants or like women of color, they have to be strong more so than like your typical average like
Have
born and
to.
raised. So it's like that's the go-to. So that I did get a couple like emails and DMs from like mostly Latino women being like, I felt that like strength because you have
Yeah.
to like be strong. So they really related to her mom. I was like, because I didn't say that in the book of like, this is why but I was
Sure.
like, it made me feel so like good that they felt represented and that they
Oh,
like felt
absolutely.
that like Latina mom thing.
Yeah, it was comforting. And even like She just mentioned the culture was written so well. I feel like I learned so much just from reading
Oh,
it. And yeah, it's so true though, because the setting itself was beautiful because you paint this picture of where they're at. They're staying in like this castle-esque kind of hotel and on the beautiful beach, and it's just you're immersed in this setting. But then you start building upon the plot, and it's just so captivating. So I really loved that. Let's talk Oriah and Julian because there's a lot of enemies to lovers energy, and it was perfection. Their dynamic walks through kind of this tightrope of bickering tension, but also they understand each other on another level. Did you intend for that to build organically, or because they're so different? How was that in writing their character storyline?
they kind of just wrote themselves, honestly. Like
Yeah,
I didn't really have to like put a lot of thought. I mean, obviously I was writing it, but like I just kind of typed and they just like talked.
yeah,
And then I would even have moments where I would like roll my eyes at them or be like, what? Like you guys are so and like obnoxious or like you guys just get along. And then when I
yeah.
reread it in the editing phase, I was like, wait, this is like a mixture between like enemies to lovers and insta love at the same time.
Sure.
Like I was
Definitely
like,
thought
how did
that.
that even happen? But I feel like they just kind of took over and like I didn't really have a say, but I loved their like there were times where one of them would say something and it like made me laugh even though I was writing it. It was weird.
And Julian, he's this broody again, and compared him to Harden a little bit. What did you want kind of like your readers to see through him? What was the biggest thing that you wanted to convey?
I wanted him to be not, I'm like, not a red flag, but I wanted him to be like whatever is between green and red flag. Like, I wanted you to be like, he's immediately like, well, I don't know about this guy. Like, he's so like stubborn and he's so opinionated and like judgmental, but he's also like, once you get to know him, you realize why he is that way. And when I was writing, especially their arguments beside his, because he does have mental health struggles.
Yeah.
So like when I was writing that in the like about like a third of the way through, I was like, what is he do? Because he kept like this isn't really a spoiler, but he kept like kind of disappearing. And I'm like, he wouldn't just like ghost her. Like I know he gets like frustrated and he
Sure.
like just
He
runs
cuts he
because
cuts
that's like
himself off for a little bit.
yeah, and it was like driving me crazy. And I'm like, okay. And then when I like kind of realized that whenever I write this happens, I don't really like plan a lot. It just kind of unfolds. And then when I realized like he is like also suffering from a different kind of illness. So then it just made more sense because I was like, he's not an asshole. Like he's like
Right.
a genuine guy. He's like in love with her. He just like doesn't
Yes.
even know how to like do that. And he has like trauma of like his parents and all this stuff too. So it's like, and this anger and I don't want to talk about this part because it's a massive spoiler, but like he has a big reason to like be really kind of just angry at the world and especially Oriah
Yeah.
and her family. So
Yes.
I wanted people to like swoon over him but also like I don't know, like not pity him either. I'm like, what is the word I'm looking for?
I think there was a
um
level of obvious mystery too to him that was kind of like from start to finish. Like, what is it with this guy that you can't pinpoint? You really just want to find out a little bit more about him throughout the story.
because I wanted him to be like very emotionally intelligent and like mature, but also not be like perfect and have it all figured out. Because I feel
Yeah.
like sometimes when you have, especially like in these destination
Yeah.
romances, it's like the guy is like just perfect from start to finish. And obviously, that's not my MO. If anyone has read any of my books,
Yeah.
that's not my style. So I wanted him
Yeah.
to be complicated, but with Oriah and him, I tried to make it like to where Hardin and Tessa are like it's like those two against each other.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 18 and 19, so it's like
Right.
obviously they're not going to be like grown-ups. But with Julian and Oriah, I wanted it to be like kind of the world against them instead of them against each other all the time. So
Oh,
I
that's
wanted it
powerful.
to be like bigger problems than just like miscommunication all the time. Where with
Yes.
Hardin and Tessa, it was like the same kind of, which I love, and I think that's like one of the reasons it was so addicting and so realistic with After because that's how people are. Usually it's like you have the same fight over and eventually you figure it out or you don't. But
How to
like
understand each other.
yeah, it takes a while, especially if you're like
Yes.
in college.
Yes.
So with this, I wanted it to be like outside forces kind of trying to pull them apart. Where Hard and Tessa was like they pulled each other and themselves apart enough.
Yeah. And there's this theme that I love too that you did where it's kind of like the fine line of living boldly even though life isn't guaranteed. Did you kind of want these two characters to bring that out like from each other and developing their storylines? Because I felt like like you said earlier, they both kind of needed each other at the right time. And when they found each other, they helped each other in more ways than you can imagine.
Yeah, it wasn't, again, it kind of just happened. But looking back, something in my subconscious obviously wanted that to be a
Yeah.
thing because they were both very isolated people. Like Julian
Yes.
would come out sometimes and hang out with Amara and her friends, but like for the most part, he was a very isolated person. Like he just lives on his boat,
Yes.
hangs out with his dad, goes to work every day, eats it, like he
Yes.
just does the same thing. And he doesn't have a support system really. If he wanted to, he could, but he just never has. And with Oriah, she pretty much only has her mom, and
Yeah.
then she doesn't have a lot of friends. She doesn't have like a community. She doesn't really have anything. So I felt like I wanted these two like kind of isolated, really lonely people to find something in each other that just like kind of stuck. And then once they like are stuck, they don't.
Yes, and you scared me because I wasn't sure if we were going to get a happy ever after, but yeah, you definitely brought that at the end, and God, that killed me. Like I
Yeah,
had
that
my
ending, honestly,
questions.
even when I like reread it after it was published, I was like, man, like it was, yeah. And I honestly, sometimes I wasn't sure when I was like kind of planning the book because the
Yeah,
original idea is there enough stuff in the world right now that's making everybody, and I'm typically like a tragedy lover. Like
me
that's why I
too.
love classics so much because I love a tragedy, but
Yeah,
I just feel like right now everything's so heavy and
it
when I'm reading, which is like the only time besides Pilates that I can turn off my brain, it's like I just want to like have a like if it's a different kind of book, then I'm fine having an unhappy ending.
is.
But I feel like I don't know if it's the older I get or the way the world is. I don't know what's going on, but I'm just
Totally.
not that into like not HAs anymore. And I used to be very
No.
like, what do you mean? Like romance isn't only happy? And I'm like, no, it is. Like if you
Yeah.
tell me this is a romance, it better be a romance.
Absolutely. And I feel like you could still have a very emotional book with even like with a happy ever after, and you don't have to have it end in tragedy to be able
Yes.
to
And if
capture
it
that.
does, it needs to be in like contemporary
Yeah.
fiction section and Barnes and Noble, not romance. Because if I pick that
Yes.
up and it's like a couple on the cover, it's like, no, if
Yeah.
you're telling someone's life story and then there's tragedy, more power to you. But if you're selling me a romance, that's not what I need. And I do, there's
Totally.
so many books that I cry and I'm like, it's so stressful, intense. And even series that I watch, it's like so much can happen and they can still be happy at the end.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And I want to go back to Majorca. Say it was mentioned.
It was, well, it started just like Spain in general, because I
Spain
have
in
been to
general.
Spain a bunch of times for
Okay.
publishing, which is great. I'm like, lucky me, I got to go to Spain a lot. But
Yeah.
I'd never been to Mallorca, but I had been to Barcelona and I had been to Catalan, just not to Mallorca. But I was just trying, I wanted somewhere that I hadn't really read before. And I wanted it to, in my mind, he was definitely Spanish. And he was
Yeah.
like, the first scene that popped in my head was like this man working on a boat. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, he has to be Spanish and he has to be like in Spain. Like the background in my head was definitely not the States. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, we're definitely like in Spain or the south of like Italy. But then he didn't seem Italian. So I was like, okay,
Right.
he's definitely Spanish. And this was like before there was a name or anything to him. He was just like a thing I was creating.
Yes.
Um, and then it just kind of, I was like, Mallorca just makes sense. And then I like did a bunch of like research to make sure that it actually did make sense because I wanted
Yeah.
it like in my head. It was pretty much exactly what Mallorca was, but I just wanted to make sure that these like scenery and the beaches and all this stuff like looked like what I had in my head. Otherwise, I'd have to pick
Totally.
somewhere else. But
Yeah.
it really just fit like perfectly.
I love Europe, and I feel like that is a perfect setting for this book just to kind of take you away. It's a great beach read. I love the title so much, but even more so when you have finished the book, you feel you know the reasoning behind the title. Can you, without spoilers, kind of describe how you came up with that theme and the title itself? Because I feel like we have to talk about it.
Yeah, so let's see, without spoilers. I'm like, at the beginning, because of the ending being different, when it was first titled that, it definitely had a totally different meaning.
Yes.
And then I was like, I don't want to change the title because it's still applicable to like some like certain scenes. But her seeing her first sunrise was like something that because when you, my son takes a lot of medication, not only for epilepsy, but just in
Yeah.
general, there's a lot of medication. And so many medications really do like just kind of knock you out. And when you take
Sure.
like my son takes like trazodone and all these things to sleep, and it's like very strong.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just had this like kind of thought in my head of like, this poor girl's never even seen a sunrise. Like,
Yeah,
and sunrises are just, I mean, I feel like everyone loves the sunrise, but there's just like
yeah,
something so like symbolic about a sunrise
for
that's
sure.
like every day is new and it's always the sun's always going to rise. And I
Yeah,
feel like I've seen so many like quotes and heard like so many speeches and stuff of people always saying like the sun will always come and like it just
the
gives
new
us a
start.
little bit of like yeah, like a
Oh,
new start and hope and like it's like only can be dark for so long before it's light again. So it's like
yeah.
I wanted to put all of that into like a romance and then I made a little more literal in the book, but you have to read it to see that part.
Yeah, when you tied that in, I mean, I don't think enough people take moments to like just pause and be up early enough to look at the sunrise. And to me, it's so beautiful because that's exactly it. It's like a new start, a new sense of hope and new beginning. Each day is a new beginning. And especially with Ry, I think that part got me very emotional because of how you described it. It's just like she hadn't seen her first sunrise. But not only that, to experience that with the love of her life, that's a
Mhm.
whole nother thing. That's a whole
Yeah.
nother area of swim.
Yeah.
So I just love that. And I think that's the perfect title to kind of describe. And once readers experience that, you'll see what we're talking about and how impactful it was. Going back to Rye's mom and kind of her love story too, there's a lot of, a lot of history that you get to find out as to why her mom's the way she is. Kind of like the idea of what if that I think we all have experienced at one point in time. Why did you feel like that storyline kind of shaped the way, Rye even?
I feel like as much as we don't want to, most of
Mhm.
us are a lot more like our mothers than we want
Yeah,
to admit. And the times when we try our hardest to not be like them is when we end up being more like them. So I wanted to kind of have her mom be like a parallel to her and her be a parallel to her mom, but have completely different situations and scenarios. And I didn't want to have her mom just be this like, bitchy rich lady who like doesn't have any personality, has never been in love and like
right.
just like I felt like that would just be doing such a disservice to her character and to Rye. So I tried to make sure that because a lot of times like there's so much in my head where like I know these people's like every thought and then I'm like on the page sometimes I'm like wait okay I need to make sure this like comes across and with her mom I end up loving I love a good like I don't want to spoil it but I love a good like second chance I love
Me
a good
too.
like longing and like this like lingering emotion that you like try to suppress for so long and then you like can't. So I wanted her also I just wanted her to like be in love. Like I was like this
Yes, me too.
like her life has been hard and as much as like I think it's interesting to me whenever the younger readers of mine read my books because they always like demonize the mothers
Yeah,
and then the older readers are like I understand her so
I
much.
understand why. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's like even when I wrote after, for example, it's not related, but it's like I remember like Tessa's mom. It's like everybody hated her, and then as everyone got older, they're like, "Wait a second,
I
like if your
understand.
daughter was with this man, you would also be like, what the hell is this? Like,
Yeah,
absolutely not. Especially like your 18-year-old daughter. It's not like Tessa was 35. Like,
right.
so it's funny, like even Vampire Diaries, like I rewatched it recently and I was like, I used to hate every single parent on there and most of them are
Me
pretty
too.
effed
Me
up.
too.
But rewatching it, I'm like, I understand. Like I
Yeah,
get it for the most part. Like some of the parents are just unhinged, but there are a couple that I remember hating so much. And then when I rewatched it, I was like, wait, no, actually, like they're pretty
actually
valid.
see their POV.
Yeah.
Totally,
So with
totally.
Araya's mom and her like, story, I wanted that to be kind of like a bigger part of her personality and her like the way she handles things than she thought than Oriah thought. I also wanted to have a moment of her just like kind of being completely like broken in a way and like all of these things that she's tried so hard to just keep like herself like only working only focused on Oriah and it's really easy to do that when you like for me it's like when I was first getting divorced I was like I am going to focus just on me and my child and I don't have time for anything else like even doctor's appointments and MRIs and overnight hospital stays and all the medication and all the like I was like I don't even have the time and energy to like and it would have been very easy to
Yeah,
stay in that
for
cycle
that.
and I didn't like I ended up meeting someone way
Yeah.
faster than I thought and I'm so glad I did but at the time I was like freaked out I'm like wait this is not part of the plan so I wanted
Yes.
Oria's mom's like life to kind of just be like derailed even though she had no idea that all was gonna like resurface. And it's hard to say without spoilers, but like, yeah, but I loved it. Like, it
Oh,
was
me
one of
too.
my favorite parts of the
And I
book.
feel like we need more. I feel like their story hasn't fully ended yet. I feel like you left readers kind of like wondering what's next for them because I think and that's the best when I think authors can do that is leaving the what if. So I'm excited to hopefully see what continues. And
I have a lot
I,
of things for them. Like, I even just like thinking about when I was writing, without a spoiler, like a specific scene, and imagining there was like a photograph in the scene, and it was like, I guess it's not really spoiler, like Oriah's mom, and I like imagine her as a teenager and what her life was like and her responsibilities and like
yeah,
all of these things, and I'm like, that is a long thought I'm having. That is like a book length storyline here.
yes.
So you never know.
I'm hoping, and I am more like, okay, there's going to be a movie, spoiler, but it's not really a spoiler because it's kind of
Yeah.
now. I'm so interested to see who gets casted for her character because I feel like that is such a strong character with so much depth that whoever is in that, you know, character is just going to bring it home. So,
Yeah, that I can't say obviously, but I'm very excited. Like,
yes.
I love we've only announced Ry so far, but I'm so like not only like blown away, and like some of the people I'm like, I can't believe they're even
Yeah.
like involved in this. It's crazy, but I'm very excited, and I feel like you'll also be very
Oh
excited.
my gosh. We can't, yeah, we're really excited.
It's and I the way I wrote it, because the idea was the film first, it's very like cinematic and easily
Yeah.
adapted. So I every time, like every scene, I could see it like so vividly. It was I feel like since I started producing now, my writing style is so different, just like
Yeah, you write
totally.
with the idea that it could be a movie or it's going to be a movie.
Yeah, and I think it makes it easier, even if it wasn't or didn't end up being, it's like it makes it more like descriptive in a different way for
Oh, I
readers
agree.
unintentionally, where it's like you describe things differently than I would if I wasn't thinking of it like as a scene kind of.
Yeah. How did the casting happen with Maya? How was that?
So she happened like very quickly. Like I was very stuck because all of us were like me and the other producers. We were like, okay, this is a very like not super complicated like to cast because there's tons
Yeah.
of amazing like Spanish actors, Latin actors. There's tons of them, but it was like, how do we find someone who is because also like technically like people want to at least a little bit of familiarity from one of
Yes.
the cast. So we were like, okay, going through this list, and I saw her face, and there she has like, I don't, if you guys haven't seen her face, you have to go. She's so freaking
Beautiful.
cute. And when she smiles, she had in my head when I was writing Rye, she didn't have like a full face or full like like I could see like her eyes and stuff, but she had this thing where she like when she smiles, like her eyes close.
Yeah.
And when Maya smiles, like there, I didn't see that in her headshot because it's very like perfect and like
Yes.
sultry. And
Yeah.
then when I saw her like talking and reading and like I was like, oh my God. I mean, like I was like, we're done. Like we don't even like I was like, we need her immediately. And then her representation, which is more technical Hollywood stuff, but
Yeah.
it was like it's such a small world. It's like LA
Yes.
is so small, like Hollywood in general is so small. But I ended up realizing that her manager is someone that I know very well. And then she was like, come on the movie. And then it was like perfect. And then Maya immediately was like, yeah. And then I also love that she not only looks exactly, she's like a little bit shorter than what I imagined for Raya. That's the only
Right.
thing that's different. But when I imagine Ryan, like her energy and like Maya can be very like calm and shy, but she can also be like so fun and like
Yes.
she dances and she's on Broadway, which like, sometimes with casting it's hard because you get like the perfect face, but the acting
You
isn't
don't get
always
the whole
there.
yeah.
And it's like people that are on Broadway, not a single one of them is a bad actor. So it's
Yeah.
like she's going to be able to deliver every single emotion and every single like the humor, the
Couldn't
sadness, the
agree more.
struggle, like everything. So I love her so much.
Have you enjoyed, I know that you've had kind of your toes in the film industry now, and I can only imagine, but how was that experience? I could just imagine, like, from your perspective, just being part of that and producing. Like, is that anything you ever imagined, like, when you were Wattpad, Anna? Like,
Definitely not. Never. I've always loved film. So I love series too, but I've always like I feel like I thought everyone just like I don't know. There's so many little things where like when I started telling my mom like I'm really loving being on set. Even for the first
Yeah.
after movie, I was like, there's something, and it was
Mhm.
so like rewarding because my gut instinct, I'm like such a good instinct person. And every time, like with casting and with like changes of a scene and like these little things, or when I would rewrite it, like all of the kind of fan favorite scenes in the first film, even if they weren't in the book, was like I literally wrote them, and like
Yeah.
Arden's letter and like all these things, like all
Yes.
these. So it was like I started being like, wait, and then the people around me were like, you're like pretty, like you're really good at this, especially when it came to like
Yeah.
casting and like the details and like even certain camera angles where I don't know anything about cameras. Like now I do more, but
Right.
it's like in the beginning I was like, I feel like we should be closer to them. And then it's like we went like in the lake scene, and after it's like
Oh
then
my
we went closer,
gosh.
and it's like the scene was completely different when we first started filming it. Like it was really
Yeah.
far away. It was very like there were no like close-ups where you could see the water and like, and I'm like, this would
Beautiful.
have been a completely different scene. So
Hmm.
I there's something about it that's like a different form of storytelling that I just love so
Yeah.
much. Like it's so there's just I don't know, it's like magical, honestly. There's definitely a downside and like a dark side to everything, but
Sure.
I'm always like, I'd rather be miserable on a film set than be miserable back
Yeah.
at Waffle House. So
Well,
I'm
and also
fine.
like seeing the end product, I can only imagine. Like I remember when the After series got to Netflix, and that was all that anyone and everyone was talking about. And I like had to rewatch it over and over again because I felt like I was missing things. Like, when you watch shows the first time, you're like, I want to go back and watch it because I feel like I'm gonna catch more. And you did each time. And I couldn't agree with you. Just like the way it was shot, the storytelling, the cast. I mean, it was so addicting. So
And
I
even the
think
music,
the
like, thank
music,
you, first of all. The
oh,
music, I was
music.
like, I had so much like input on, especially the first one, that I'm like, I like even just objectively feel like if I hadn't been so involved, or even know anything about it or written the book, anything, I would love that movie. Like, I am
Yes.
so proud of that first movie. Like, that is a movie that people, I truly believe, not even to be like a narcissist, but people would
Yeah.
truly love it in 20 years. Like, I feel
Yes.
it's just so well done, and the chemistry is insane. The
Yeah.
cast is
All of
like,
the characters.
I
My
just love,
favorite.
like, I'm so proud of that movie. So
Yeah.
once we finish that one, and certain things are out of my control for the other ones, it is what it
Sure.
is. But I'm like, no one can take that first movie from me. And
No.
then I realized, like, being on other sets and being involved with optioning other books, and then being on the set of them. Like, when I was in Malta, I was on a set, and I'm like, this is just, it's so amazing. And the chemistry in that, I can't even say what that movie is yet, but
Yeah.
it's not my book, but it's a book that I loved. Like it came out in like 2014, but I loved it, and I'm very excited about it. But the chemistry is like, I just love romance so much. So like being and able to like be the direct audience and know
Yes.
like this is what we want, and then being
Yes.
able to like make it, like be a part of making it happen, and working with other people, because writing a book, it's like just me, and then we working on film, there's so many of us, so it's like it's just, I don't know, it's fun, and I love being able to do both, and I'm just like so
Oh,
grateful that, and like still kind of in shock all the time that this is my
oh
life.
my gosh, it's amazing to see, especially since I've been with Wattpad Anna for a long time. So I have always just like appreciated your journey, and well, it's really cool to see your development and just what's next. I feel like the sky's the limit. And I'm anxious to see like the rest of the cast. And do you have any more announcements coming, or do we
Yeah,
have any
we
more
have kind
teasers?
of like a big one. The plan as of right now is to do like, because we have a director already, we have most of the cast. So the plan is to do an announcement with the director, and then probably Julian by himself, and then the rest of the cast as one. But there will be pretty soon, because we're filming this year. So
Yeah.
if we don't announce soon, I feel like it's going to get leaked, which always
Yes.
happens anyways. But I'm like, I at least want the like press release to be finished before it gets leaked.
Well, I'm excited to see Buc-ee's being featured in the film.
Yeah, seriously.
I really hope so. That I feel like the people need to see. So,
And it's like its own adventure. Like it's wild. Like there's like furniture, there anything you can ever need is in Buc-ee's.
absolutely. And if you're ever in Texas, I would love to come see you and meet you in person. What do you have going on the rest of this year, Anna? Do you have any book signings, or I know
Yeah.
that you're kind of inundated with the film.
Yeah, I have, oh, my schedule is actually so this year I'm like, I can't believe I am even doing all this year. But I just got back from Malta on a set, and then I have next week I have the first screening for Regretting You, which I also produced. That
Oh my
was
gosh.
and that's based off a Colleen Hoover book, and I optioned that rights for that like 6 years ago. So I'm so excited
So
that's
exciting.
finally. So we're watching the screening of that. The first one, so it'll be a little bit before it's done. But and then I have my next book signing is the Columbus Book Festival in July, and I'm excited for that because I don't do a lot of signings in Ohio, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
see my family. And, yes, and take Asher, and like it'll be fun.
Aw,
And then I'm going to Toronto for the Library Festival in August. And then I'll be going to the set of Last Sunrise sometime probably end of August,
yeah.
beginning of September. And then I have a couple book festivals that I haven't announced yet that are in the States. But yeah, it'll all be like
Busy.
kind of up in the air depending on the film schedule.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I have another film that is in post production right now that's getting like it's actually I already announced it, but it's Shiver, which was a
Yes.
book that I loved when I was like 18. And
Ooh.
that one we're like it's not fully done, but there's been a couple cuts of it, and I that one also the chemistry is crazy. It's so good. But the werewolf CGI is a long process.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm
yeah,
sure I can only imagine, but it's the coolest thing to see,
it's so cool
like on
watching it
film.
go from like nothing or a human in a thing to like
Yeah.
it's so fun and so cool.
I love it. That's so fun. So 2026 is going to be huge for you. That's when The Last Sunrise, is that what they're thinking, kind of the release?
Yeah.
So, well, we're so happy for you. I feel like,
Thank you.
again, if I could shout it out, if you get a chance, readers, pick up this book. The audio was done so well.
I love
Um,
those narrators. I was like so like I'm like these two have to
Amazing.
get.
Yes, and I loved how because it's mostly in Rye's point of view, but at the end you get a little bit of Julian, and he
Yeah.
did not disappoint.
Yay, I'm glad. I loved it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it was a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you so much.
Where can people connect with you? You're mostly on Instagram and
Mostly
on TikTok.
Instagram and TikTok. I mean, my TikTok's not really like book related, but it's
Yeah.
like the
Well, so-
easiest kind of most like daily life thing for
yes,
me.
we love
Um,
to see it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna. We'll be talking to you soon.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
bye. See
Bye.
ya.